So just under a week ago, I gave an educational public talk at Mind Circles Talks in London. Uh, Again, a fantastic organisation and initiative. I love what Jenny, Hema and the team at Mind Circles Talks are doing. If you're interested in neuroscience or neuroscience-related topics, and you're in the London area or even willing to watch stuff that's live streamed, fantastic, accessible, brilliant conversations. Very easy. It's made accessible, right? So this isn't like scientists talking to scientists. This is people from the neuroscience space and related fields coming and talking to a general audience, making accessible ideas and critical information from the neuroscience space, which can help people in their own lives by way of sort of casual education, give you tools and tips and tricks that you could use in day-to-day life. That's the aim and objective. So fantastic initiative. I really love what they're doing. They're making stuff that is usually hidden behind sort of like lecture room doors accessible to the general public, and I think that's fantastic. I gave this talk, and my talk focused on chronic stress, and it addressed the question of why is it that when facing the same very similar stressors, do some people burn out when others don't? And we get into the biology that underpins our ability to face up to chronic stress. And I use my lived experience as a SEND or special needs caregiver, parent of a boy with level 3 autism, undergoing assessment for ARFID, who struggles with a whole plethora of sensory needs. I use that as the proof or the use case showing how what I'm talking about, when applied in real life situations, yields benefit. And that's important, I think, for the SEN community in general, because so far as chronic stress goes, and to be clear, chronic stress is inescapable stress. It's got nothing necessarily to do with level. The difference between chronic and acute stress is short-term in duration. Chronic stress is sustained long-term. So chronic stress is what we face as SEN caregivers. Whether you're a parent, a teacher, a clinician, someone who helps children with special educational needs and disabilities, is a person who faces chronic stress. And the reason for that is the needs that these kids have, and I use my own son as the example again, helping them overcome their challenges, helping them develop and improve, helping them become the best version of themselves that they can possibly be, is incredibly stressful because their challenges are incredibly stressful, difficult to navigate. The meltdowns, the sensory overloads, the communication gaps, the games of charades, it's stressful to do. It is very stressful to do. The stringent routines that have to be stuck to, because any slight deviation from them, initiated by anyone else than the child, results in complete catastrophic meltdown. And yet the child will, from time to time, for unknown reasons, vary the routine just spontaneously, and then you're left trying to sort of figure out what to do, because if you try and enforce the routine, it all falls apart again as well. It is a stressful thing. But the child is the entire mission. And that's what makes it chronic, because you don't get to escape it, you don't get to walk away from it, you don't get to leave them behind and go look after your own health. They are the entire mission. So we are, in my opinion, the sort of ultimate use case for chronic stress. And if you can find something that helps to build the capacity to face up and to address that chronic stress head on, without it leading to burnout, without it leading to wiping you out, which I believe I have, and this talk was part of me putting forward my case for that, then you're onto something incredibly helpful and useful for many, many people, which is why I'm doing what I'm doing in the social media space and sharing the message that I'm sharing. I live this out. I feel the benefit. I want to share it with others because it's not commonly spoken about. It's not commonly taught. Now, The one thing that we all wish for, the one thing that we all want, is the magic wand, or the wishing well, or the fairy godmother. And what I mean by that is, we all wish for something that would just snap our fingers and the stress is gone. The obstacles are gone. The things that are causing the difficulty in our lives is gone. Not to say the children, but their needs. I'm yet to meet a SEND parent who's dealing with extreme needs who wouldn't, if given the opportunity, take those off their child and not have their child suffer through that. I'm yet to meet the parent or the teacher who's helping children navigate those needs and come up against the battle that is trying to get EHCPs and sort of provision from their local authority. Magic the need for that away. I often dream of winning the lotto, because if I won the lotto and I had unlimited resources, so to speak, I wouldn't have to bother with an EHCP. I'd just pay for everything privately. I'd pay for private consultants to assess him and diagnose what need he has, and I'd pay privately for the provision of those needs. And I would get it because I'd remove the barriers of needing all these approvals and red tapes and all the nonsense that comes with having to deal with councils who are budget strapped, don't have enough money to go around in reality, but have increasing demand year on year for the provision that these kids are supposed to be getting. So it's a highly stressful situation. I would magic that away in a second if I could. So far I haven't won the lottery. And my point being that there is no magic wand. There is no wishing well. There is no fairy godmother. There is nothing that's coming along to magic away the stresses in your life. The agency that you have and the option that you have is to face up to it and to confront it head on, solving one problem at a time. That requires capacity. It requires the capacity to handle the stress, because the stress is going to be on you. There's no way around that. The capacity to work through under that stress and to still be level-headed enough and clear enough to solve problems systematically and sequentially in the order that they need addressing. There is a mountain, an ocean worth of problems that come with being a SEND caregiver. I know this because I'm living it too. And you cannot boil the ocean. You cannot do it all at once. So you have to have the clarity of mind to sit back and prioritize and work out in what order, what sequence you need to be doing things, and there's always something to do. I believe that I have found the key to building that capacity in your mental health and your physical health to face up to the stress, to do that systematic problem solving and sequencing without it grinding you down and leading to burnout or worse. So I'm sharing that, and one of the ways I'm going to be sharing that is I'm taking the talk that I did last week and I'm expanding it into a full-blown academic essay. What I mean by academic essay is written in the way that you would write an academic non-fiction essay. In other words, it's going to be fully referenced. It's going to cite the sources of the information, the science that I'm sharing. It's going to provide the evidence as it is presented in the literature, and I'm going to pull that together and make the most coherent argument that I can as to why I believe, according to the evidence, this is the case, and why I believe every SEND parent, every SEND caregiver should know about this and should also have access to implement it in their own lives, because it helps. I'm going to publish that on my Substack. Substack is free to access. Anyone can go and find my Substack, find the article and read it. It also pins it as my intellectual property. So I'm not going to get it published in a peer-reviewed journal. I'm not in academia. I'm not working in academia. So that's not the appropriate route for me. I'm going to publish it on my Substack. I'm going to make it available for the general public to look at and see and reference and double check, fact check. Please don't just take me at my word. Please check the information and the references that I'm presenting. Read up that source material. Make sure that what I'm saying is accurate and actually represented in the source material, or at least supported by it. And therefore what I'm saying has credence. don't just take me at my word. Check. And from there, it can then build into other things. I'm in talks with people about turning it into a workshop. I don't know what that looks like just yet. I don't know what the structure and format will be. I have that meeting on Thursday this week. But if I was to have a crystal ball and try and imagine how I would have it, I would have it be something like an online course, because it's then more accessible. It's not realistic for the SEND community to get to a physical location to attend workshops. I know this. I avoid traveling for work so far as I possibly can, because I know the disruption that causes to the routine at home is something that we pay for days afterwards. For example, earlier this year, I had a meeting up in Manchester for my day job. It was more practical for me to drive there in the morning. So I got up at 4. I left my home just before 5 a.m. I drove the 4 and a bit hours to Manchester. I attended the workshop for the day. The workshop ended. I drove back home. Now that seems extreme. And yes, under normal circumstances, the better approach would have been to either catch the train to make the journey there and back, but then you can't guarantee the trains are running and on time. You lose the ability to be master of your own destiny, and it is important for the family routine that I get home as early as practically possible to minimize disruption to that routine, because disruption to that routine is something that sets my son off, and his dysregulation lasts for days afterwards. So we pay the price for that disruption big time. That is why I don't spend the night and travel back the next day. That would be far more convenient for me. I don't enjoy driving that amount of time, that distance, in a single day after a full day's workshop when I'm tired. But I do it because I know that if I don't, the price we pay within the four walls of our own household is severe, and it lasts for days afterwards. So for my son's sake and for the sake of the rest of the family, I take on that inconvenience, because I can handle that inconvenience far easier than the rest of us can handle the dysregulation follows. So I want it to be an online course because I want it to be accessible. I don't want it to be something that is locked away from the same community, that we can't access it, because I know what that's like. I'm hoping that we can figure something out. I'm hoping that we can make this accessible. I'm hoping that we can figure out a way to make it affordable and something that would truly be helpful. So I'm going to keep working at this. I'm going to publish that essay a bit later this week once it's available. I will share the links for that. That is free of charge, absolutely nothing to sell there. Beyond that, I'm looking at the potential to turn it into workshops, to turn it into future and additional talks. The mission is to get this information out there. It's information that I'm sharing on my social media, but on social media, I'm trying to share it in bite-sized reels, bite-sized snippets, because social media has an attention problem. People are not grabbing hold of social media and spending hours looking at the same content. They're flicking through stuff that the attention span is short. So I think that the essay, the workshop, the additional talks, this is the platform where you get the actual core of the message across in an accessible way that truly makes a difference in people's lives. So that's what we're going to be working towards. And I specifically, I wanted to help anyone facing chronic stress. There's other chronic stress situations to which this is completely applicable. Caring for a sick loved one, dealing with a chronic long-term illness yourself, etc., financial pressures and worries. There's loads of examples of chronic stress for which this approach would be relevant and helpful. But my primary aim is my community, is the special needs caregiver community, because we are largely unserved, we are largely unsupported, and yet we are the medium through which most interventions aimed at helping the kids in our care needs to flow. So I want to be one of the people bringing something that is practical, accessible, and helpful to our community, and these are methods for me to do so. So if that sounds interesting, if it sounds exciting, if it sounds like something that you want to potentially have a look at, give me a follow. I'm not charging anything. I'm not selling you anything. I will share this information for free so far as I practically can. And I hope that it is informative. I hope that it's interesting, and I hope that you find it helpful.